Hey, welcome in. It's UnAnchored Boston, the podcast. Hank Morse with Bob Lobel and Mike Lynch. We've got our special guest, Dan Shaughnessy, who is joining us as we speak. There he is. You know what? Technologically sound, too.
Yeah,
Holding his
a lot.
name properly.
I'm glad to see Mike's in a sweatshirt. I feel better now. Yeah. So
Yeah. You shouldn't. You have no reason to dress up for this.
no, that's what I figured. It's just like hanging out with you guys. We never got dressed up before. Why start now? Hank, what's with the jacket and tie?
I have a new job
Oh, really?
every day. Cabot Risk Strategies up in Woburn, cabotrisk.com.
Wow. Do you know what you're doing?
I'm the vice president of communications. They're giving me a few months to figure it out.
That's great. I like that. Very good. Hey, who are we going to see at the Stockyard on Thursday?
Well,
I'm a maybe. My wife's
Okay.
coming home
Okay.
from Florida.
Oh,
Hank.
you'll definitely come. I'll pick you up.
Hank, how about Thursday? You know,
How about Thursday when frost sets on pumpkin?
that came back in a big way with the balloon over this country. There was the Hakawi scene with the balloon. Remember from F Troop?
Yeah, F Troop, the greatest.
It was very, very prescient. It was good.
Have you talked to your pal Scott Wally, fellow F Trooper?
He sent me the balloon F Troop highlight when the balloon was threatening our country. So it did. Scott Wally and I communicated at that time.
Well, Wild Eagle could probably have done a better job figuring out where it came from.
Well, yeah, well, whatever.
Yeah.
There
we
we
all
go.
know
So
it came
is this part of the show? Have we started the show?
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
It's all. We all know it came from MIT. Come on, there.
And are there people watching this live?
Of course.
Oh my God, what a thing!
I mean,
well,
we've been on for an hour doing the show prep.
oh,
you know,
okay,
'cause
oh,
we
very
like to
good,
get stuff in
very
order.
good.
And so we should tell you that UnAnchored Boston, the podcast, available at unanchoredboston.com, but you're also brought to you by Our Best Foods and Our Best Meatballs. Cold Springs RV up in Ware, New Hampshire. WEARE. That's right, Lynchy. Ware, New Hampshire. ColdSpringsRV.com. And the great George Gray from Lexington Toyota. And we all drive automobiles, so we bought from George Gray. That's not an exaggeration
That's a
at
fact,
all.
yeah.
Well,
You know, this weekend I was down in New York City. My wife and I went to go visit my daughter and her boyfriend, so we stayed in Brooklyn. And
We just lost you, Hank. All right, so we have to go without Hank.
Oh, Hank's doing the Marcel thing now. Very
yes,
good.
yes.
Oh, you about ready to say something? What were you going to say?
I can't be as important as what Hank was going to say. No way. I was just going to say something stupid like the pitch clock, something to get us going on that, because of all the things that are going to influence our lives, it'll be the pitch clock for at least another. Well, I don't know for how long, but I'm sure we'll be able to figure it out.
No, Bob. I'm very to your point. I'm very encouraged by what we saw over the weekend. That the players are accepting this and working with it, and they'll get better at it. There was some glitches. You don't want a game ending like you saw on Saturday, bases loaded, 2 outs, 3-2 count. But that's what preseason's for, man. They've embraced this thing. The games are shorter across the board, across the country. That's going to be a great thing for baseball. I'm very enthused about this. So
I'm really surprised as to how much of a difference it's made, and I got to give the people that came up with the idea credit, because you got to kind of think ahead and extrapolate and figure out how this is going to affect that, and how the batter and the catcher. But now I understand the catcher doesn't need to get into a crouch. The catcher just needs to stand in the box, right? Just little things like that. And I'm interested as where the clocks are going to be placed around Fenway Park. All these little things that have to be adjusted to.
Well, there's not much room for those clocks with all the advertising signage everywhere. I'm not sure they could find any bare patch where they could put anything anywhere.
Well, they have to sell them. That's the point.
you think Dennis Drinkwater could hold up the clock behind home plate?
There's an idea.
Brought to you by Giant Glass, of course.
But seriously, Dan, where would you put them? I guess I don't know. These are to me interesting decisions.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the pitch it's got to be it's like the 24-second clock. The offense has to be able to see that coming up the floor, and I think that's the the spirit here, that the pitcher's got to be able to see it, but the batter's got to be able to see it too. So they'll figure it out. Just scrape away some advertising and find a place for it. They can do that.
You know, it's kind of it probably it advantaged the pitcher because he could probably see it from 80 feet away if it's behind home plate, but the batter may not see it for 380 feet.
They got it, Mike. They'll have to put it in the sight lines where the dugouts are, don't you think? Like looking across, like the on deck circle or something. They got to figure that out. I mean, again, greater minds than ours, but I think they'll solve that.
They'll put it in the ground right in front of the home plate.
Maybe they have room on those expanded bases.
Well, we don't understand. That's a hard thing to quantify, the result of the expanded bases as opposed to the pitch clock, because you really don't. I guess split seconds is the only way to quantify it, but to know the advantage of the bigger bases versus the smaller ones.
Well, it helps the offense. It's a shorter distance, and it's a game of inches. So you pick up 2.5 inches, whatever, first to second, second to third. It's shorter first to home. I mean, the bang plays, that's going to come up. Oh, it would have been safe, would have been out. The old days kind of thing. So I do think, all of it's good for offense. In my view, the pitcher can't be dawdling around as much, can't mess with the hitter's timing as much. The shift helps the offense, clearly taking that away and making the base pass marginally, incrementally shorter. Those things are all good for offense, which I think people are in favor of. Offense that's not just home runs.
I was just reading Max Scherzer loves the pitch clock. He said this gives the pitcher all kinds of control because the batter can only step out once per at bat.
Right. Main thing is it's good for us, the fans. It's good for people watching.
That's
Dave Roberts would have gone in standing up with
there you go.
Extra 3 inches.
That's a good point.
Hey, let me ask you this: would Earl Weaver and Billy Martin embrace these changes? Would they?
I think
Earl Weaver.
I think the pitch clock they would have liked, just because it takes a little bit of the chicanery out of the game, I suppose. So, and they were both about that, but nobody liked the standing around and the time between pitches. Nobody liked that. Balls in play. The shift thing, it's hard to speak for the dead on that one. I don't know. Again, those guys liked overthinking it. Like Joe Morgan liked the 5-man infield, all different things you'd get. So if you're a strategist, I didn't like eliminating the shifts. I thought you should be able to get 9 defenders, put them where you want. And it's up to the offense to figure it out. Right. I think they'd probably feel that way on that.
It's a live free or die moment right there.
Wouldn't it almost be like telling the Kansas City Chiefs they now have to form they can't do the little ring around the
right.
You can't put guys in motion. You can't have 4 wide receivers on one side. That to me that's what it reeked of. I mean, I agree with you 100%. Put the 9 people out there and find a way to hit the ball where they ain't. We will kill it.
Yeah, that was a flat out concession to hitters that they could not adjust and wouldn't adjust, and so they made it easier for them. And to me, I didn't like the spirit of that at all.
Well, I was just going to ask you, I guess there's no tangible way other than just eyeball test of measuring how effective that's going to be.
Yeah, there's different factors to it, Bob, and you're going to see some chicanery even with that. They'll either the outfield's not restricted, they'll be putting like 2 or 3 guys in right field, or bringing a guy instead of having a left fielder use 2 outfields and put a guy in short right. I think there'll be stuff like that. There'll be guys switching right when the pitch is made, doing things like that. Cora brought out a good point when I was in Florida. The play from first to third, you'll see more of those, like the single to right field. You don't have 3 guys standing in right field, so more of that, and people like that. That's good action to play at third base on the single to right when the runner from first is going. And action plays, balls in play, action on the base pass. And Alice Cora said it'll be good for that. You're going to have more of those plays again. It's good.
I'm very excited, because when you put Kiki Hernandez at short, to think that the Red Sox are going to start with Kiki at shortstop, Christian Arroyo at second base, and who's the catcher now? I don't even know.
Well, it's McGuire and Wong.
Yeah. Why can't we get catchers like that?
What's going to be interesting is Eric Hosmer's part of the deal with the Cubs. The Cubs brought in all these new players. that's when I meant to ask Chaim Bloom that. He better hope that Casas plays really well and hits out of the gate, because if Hosmer by any chance gets in the mix in Chicago and he's hitting like he used to hit, I know he was hurt when he was here. They never used him. But the Padres are paying all of his salary. You had like this free player who was a good hitter. He's not that old. The Cubs have taken him on. I think he'll be in their everyday lineup. And you've got Tristan Casas, who is the future. I understand that. But you had a free player you didn't even have to pay, who was pretty accomplished and is evidently healthy. We'll see. I mean, that could be nothing.
He's not the only one. The Phillies got the pitcher that was released from active service.
Oh my God, the Navy kid, yeah, a story.
Kid. I mean, there's not a talk about losing somebody for free.
Song, yeah, he could be Chaim Bloom's Jeff Bagwell. We don't know.
So there's two guys that are out there that, for free.
We're ready. We'll be watching their progress all year.
I'm interested to find out if Tristan Casas gets like an endorsement deal with like the Sephora makeup store.
It's remarkable
for those beautiful nails.
I mean, Mike Schmidt came up in the fall of, I don't know what year, 69 or 70, and he had the 190, cup of coffee, 20 games, and end of the season. Rice had that. Lynn had that. But none of them came back to spring training with their nails painted the next spring. I mean, it was like really amazing thing. So he's got a lot of confidence, and it'll be interesting how he goes. And the geeks love him because he never swings the bat. He takes a lot of pitches, sees a lot of pitches, so they love him.
Yeah, let me
this is about the most we're going to talk baseball in about 6 months. So let's just
yeah.
I read like the first day of spring training, there were 4 reporters and 1 TV station down there. Did you notice a thinning of the core when you were down there?
Absolutely, Mike. And I mean, even to the point with the crowd yesterday, the last analogous day for a crowd was before the pandemic. It'd be the spring of 20. And they opened on a weekend against Tampa at home. And yesterday they had 1,500 less fans. So instead of 9,500, they were at 8,000. And they're probably going to be okay with the attendance. But it was, you guys wouldn't have believed, because you guys were all veterans of being down there. That first week was always hilarious. The guys got visa problems and the owners are here and the clown show, or Roger Clemens is holding out. And, I always thought the first week was the most fun week to get down there. Million stories out of the gate. Everybody's there. And the fans were part of it. And anybody who was there in 2005 after they won, they were like the friggin' Beatles that year. I mean, it was jammed. And, the snowbirds come down, the school vacation families, kids, and it was really rocking. I couldn't believe it. And to the point where Nesson used to televise the workouts. They would televise pitchers fielding practice, PFP, covering first base. I mean, it was like, and because I was on some of those panels, you'd be sitting on a stage talking to Tom Caron or whatever, and they're doing workouts behind you. That was the extent of the action. And we'd be talking. I used to notice a lot of balls came rocketing toward me during that time. You were kind of, I wondered about that, but it was nevertheless live programming of spring training drills. That's how popular they were.
I'm sure John Henry would have jumped up to deflect anything coming in your direction.
So this year, I mean, y'all remember you used to park it. They were a little fussy, the guys with the flags and the cones, and they're waving you around, the nice volunteers who help you park. They have meetings all winter about parking the cars. Great old guys. So this year you could park anywhere. I mean, they tell you go park on the mound if you want to. It didn't matter. And I don't know that that's changed, because they had school vacation week, and they're going to have people going to the games. The locals like to go, and the old people go, and they got that. But I'm telling you, that had to, and the media, which Mike, you started with the question. Yes. I don't think, 4 and 7 did come down, but they weren't there out of the gate. 5 was there out of the gate, and they went back.
Nobody, all roachy all the time.
All roachy, and no 25, and just, no presence of the radio stations, coming down like they used to set up down there, and no fans. I mean, it was just, it was remarkably sparse.
Is that a sign of the lack of interest?
Yeah. And part of it's, the expensive media coverage, like the Boston Herald, which is, just, it breaks my heart to see it now. They're not even there every day. They had someone there for like 10 days, but they're not there now. And the Boston Herald's not in spring training with the Red Sox. And, no Quincy Ledger or whatever. The Globe had 6 people down there, which, we take some pride in. which made it amazing when the owner of the Globe, gave interviews to other outlets when we were spending to have 6 people down there. That was a party starter.
Saw that.
When's the last time you actually had a conversation with him?
Sorry, Danny. I just want to mention the Herald. That's not a good thing.
I know. I miss it. There's just no original content in there anymore, and I still buy it every day. But it's unfortunate. It breaks my heart.
Well, I know, but we always talk about it. To newspaper town, that it really is important for the life of the industry, if nothing else.
That's over. We're lucky to have one now. We're doing the best we can. Hold it up.
When's the last time you had a conversation with John Henry?
2009.
2009?
Yeah.
Whoa.
It was 15 years ago, huh?
Yeah, we used to hang out too. It's like we were dating. We were like, watch games in the box and went to his house for dinner and boat rides. And
so you've been on the Iroquois?
I actually turned down invitations. I never made it down there, but I was invited.
So I'm trying to. I get my years are all jumbled together now. Was that around the time you wrote the book with Francona?
So I know what you mean about the years, Mike. So the tipping point was when the David Ortiz cheating stuff came out. David and Manny in 2009, the New York Times released those names for the baseline testing in 2003, and it was an easy. We were in New York and. They were bringing out David to the press conference, and he made no attempt to say this didn't happen at the time. But it was, he had the support of the Players Association, and we were in New York. My lead was easy. Let's go back to 2004. Our cheaters are better than their cheaters, and it was like, Manny and David, and they had Pettit and Sheffield and A-Rod and whatever, and Sox beat them. So anyway, John frowned on that narrative, and we was never right after that.
You mentioned Ortiz. Last week we had Chad Finn on because of his epic editing and compilation of the Globe and the Red Sox, which is going to be a fascinating tape.
I haven't seen that thing yet. I'm anxious. It looks
yeah, we all are actually. When he had it on, and but one of the items that he talked about was, and we asked him the most popular, most important. I think that's the way we phrased it. The most important member of the Red Sox in their history, who was the guy, and he mentioned you've had a number of conversations with him about this, that he said Ortiz. Didn't he say that, guys?
Yeah.
And he said this was not something you frowned upon, and I would have agreed with you on this, that I thought I was shocked when he said Ortiz, actually.
Yeah, and it's again, Chad's by our standards a young guy, right? So, but I didn't live the Williams experience as I was aware of it, because growing up in a household here, Mike knows this. It was like John F. Kennedy, Cardinal Cushing, Ted Williams. Those are the people that were talked about all the time in the 50s and 60s, and I understand what Chad's getting at there, and David Ortiz was part of 3 world championships, and breaking the 86 years and the clutch hitting, and but it's so the word important versus major news figure, whatever. I can tell you, ask Montville or Ben Bradley, people who wrote those books on Ted. I mean, as a newsmaker in the 20th century, Ted Williams was second only to John F. Kennedy in New England in that century. There's no question. The amount of books that were done, and of course, there's the 2 wars and the Jimmy Fund and all the other stuff. But you had 7 newspapers and the town, and he's the greatest hitter of all time, and he didn't win, and you can't change that. I understand that. Ortiz won, he didn't. And even as a performer, it's just not close. People just need to look it up. I mean, David Ortiz, I don't know, was he ever top 10 MVP? I mean, he was a great clutch hitter, and he had the moment, and.
No, I remember him complaining about his missing RBI.
Oh my God, yeah, that stuff, and he was released by the Twins at the age of 26. Find another Hall of Famer that was released at the age of 26. There's a lot of curiousness about it that I've always kind of accentuated. But anyway, he won. He's a god. He's Big Papi. He was great to fans. He was a great clutch hitter, and he has 3 rings. And for folks that are younger, that's it. I understand that, but they're wrong.
Thanks
Dan,
to
were
Davis,
you actually?
this has been done in the Dominican Republic.
Oh. What about the DR, Bob?
I was just saying it was thanks to Ed Davis.
Well,
Justice
cracked the
has been
case.
done. Huh?
Yeah.
But I'm just,
Yeah.
throwing it out there. Anyway, it was interesting that Chad brought that up.
Yeah,
and
no,
and why he did as you did, but it wasn't only restricting it to players. Tom Yawkey could have been the most important figure in the history
sure.
of the Red Sox, or even Babe Ruth, or any of these guys.
Sure.
So,
And were you the one that came up with the phraseology that literally David Ortiz was the player to be named later? Because when he was with the Twins, he was David Arias.
Oh, no, that was not me. I know when he changed his name, Tom Kelly was his manager. They didn't get along. Kelly asked if he'd gotten married over the winter. He said, "What's the story?" Kelly was a wise ass.
Really? That's amazing.
Dan, is this still, despite all the success of the Patriots in this century, is this still a baseball town or is it a football town?
Football town now. I mean, I know what you're getting at, and I know how you and I feel and what we grew up with. And it's nice that there's still a conversation about them, year round. They never go out of season, and that's true. But the Patriots are now, they don't go out of season either. And because of the preponderance of talk radio, which we all know, and ESPN and the local, NBC Sports Boston and Nesson, I mean, football, you turn on the Sports Hub, they're talking, it doesn't matter what month it is. It's a 4-hour football show about Matt Patricia or O'Brien or what, the draft, whatever. I mean, this is what, and the younger population, we're older, but the bar, I think 50 and under, it's all Patriots now. It's not the baseball. I have an older population of readers, and they still love baseball and they react to the baseball quizzes and all that sort of thing. But I'm very aware that we are, our days are over. Our time is past, and this football is what drives it now. It's the perfect sport, and you've had that team with a 20-year dynasty, and it plays to all the betting, all the fantasy, the violence. I mean, everything that television, impervious to commercials, the whole thing. It's just it's the perfect product, and you happen to have this great team for 20 years during that time, and now they're just living off that. So I don't know how you guys feel, but Mike, in my view, we all live the media, and that's got to be the accent now. It's got to be all them, because you're spinning your wheels if you try and talk baseball or push it on today's viewers, readers, whatever.
Yeah, gone are the days when the hot stove lunch with the beef stew. We used to have, let's the bar's open, let's have lunch. We just lost fist to the arbitrator.
No, that's like daily mass on the racetrack. It's old days.
Yeah. It is very odd to have the team with the best record in the NBA and the team with the best record in the NHL, and nobody's talking about them.
Well, I mean, they will be, and that's we're still.
Bruins look like a lot to me. I mean, I don't see. I mean, they look really, and Mike doesn't want. It's a little early for Mike to talk about the Bruins just yet.
I'm getting there.
In March, but they look pretty solid to me. I mean, I think they're going to be hard to beat.
Well, you guys know, and again, in that sport, the playoffs is a reboot unlike any other.
Yes.
I mean, the season ends and they hit the rebut, and it's like it's all starts over, and the 8 seed beats the 1 seed regularly in that sport. It's the one of all the other 3. It doesn't carry over, so it just scares the hell out of me. I want the playoffs to start tonight for those Bruins because they're just playing so great. And again, you guys are old enough to remember the 71 Bruins team, which I'm going to write about this week. They won the cup in 70 and 72, but the best team was 71. They had 10, 20 goal scorers. They were the rock stars, and Dryden came out of nowhere and beat them in the first round. So that's sport, and it's happened with President's Trophy winners regularly. The Canadians team, the 76, 77, it just means nothing. So, Bob, they are the favorite. They should win, but nothing would surprise me in that sport. It's not like
that puts a bit of truth to the whole story. You just don't know. They just sure look good right now.
Oh my God! I mean, the goalies are scoring now. Come on.
But my fear, and you took the 2 words that I wrote down with my left hand right here: President's Trophy. If we have to hang another President's Trophy banner in the garden and have nothing to show for it, I'm gonna just.
I know. It really puts it on him, and those Bergeron, Krejci. How many more are left for those guys? I mean, come on. This has been, and even Marchand's getting really old. So it's a really interesting team, and good for them, because we were ready to hammer them when they changed coaches, because we all loved Cassidy and thought that was a dumbass move, and they were right.
They were right. They really were. I agree with you.
What's exciting too about the trade that they just made? Garnet Hathaway is my dad's neighbor up in Kennebunkport, Maine.
I like that, Hank.
Lived on the same street as Josh Osich, short time lefty for the Sox for a while, but went to Phillips Andover, went to Brown, right? And as a grinder. That's the funny thing about the NHL. The guys from the Ivy Leagues that make it to the NHL, they're brilliant, but they're also like the physical grinders, which, you would expect them to be, the button-up choir boys, but no.
Well, Hank, you've just told me more about this guy than I know, because my hockey knowledge fits into a thimble, and you have just covered that very thoroughly for me. Thank you.
Yeah, you can use the word grinder, Dan. Nobody's going to say anything about
it.
Speaking of a grinder, how about our best foods and our best meatballs?
Yeah, that's good. I'll do that. I'll throw one of those in right here.
Do you expect that Red Sox pitching staff to throw up a bunch of meatballs? If they're going to throw them, they might as well be our best foods and our best meatballs. Dan, where do you go grocery shopping?
I don't do a lot of that.
I know you're not on Amazon.com.
No. I mean, no. But I'll sign on to whatever the product is. I love meatballs, so bring them on.
Listen, all you need to do is walk into your friendly local grocer. You walk in the frozen food section. You look left. You look right. You look for whom? Bob Lobel, the smiling chef. Show him, Lynchy.
Smiling chef right here.
Right there.
Cool.
He's always happy to see you. Always happy to see you. Reach in. You give him a big hug. You put 6 or 7 bags in your carriage. You take him home. I mean, Dan, how many grandchildren now? 6?
5.
5.
Hey, Lynch, are you at 5?
6.
Damn it. Got me.
I'm holding steady at 2. And they love the meatballs.
Smiling chef right here. We call him Pablo Bell. And I don't know if I heard the story in Winter Haven. I'll let Bob pick it up, but I'll tee him up. He went down with the Channel 4 crew of, I don't know, 15 or whatever. But
probably 2 of them. 1 cameraman and 1 me in a car that drives to Orlando, because it was in Winter Haven, Dan. This is the key with Winter Haven, okay?
So Lobel gets down there. There's a room for his photographer, a room for producer, a room for the truck operator. He's got no room. So we don't have any room for Bob Lobel. So pick it up, Bob, from there.
Well, he says, I have no room. There's nobody here listed for Bob Lobel. And he looked down and he says, what about Pablo Bell? Can't make that up.
Yeah, that's good. That's good, man.
And,
waiting all day for the Holiday Inn in Winter Haven.
That's exactly right. Buddy LaRue got me in.
Well, what was the story about? And I think this is Dan, I think this is one of yours. About the player when they ship all the stuff up from spring training to Boston on the train, about the TV. He didn't think it was going to work.
That was Manny. That was a Manny story, actually. So it was the car train. Jack McCormick, great traveling secretary. They had a meeting. I'm trying to think of. It was the meeting was to tell them. Oh, I know. Okay, so they're in Florida, and all the stuff's down to the baby cribs and everything, and the truck's going to take all the cribs back north, and the team was opening on the road. So we're leaving Fort Myers, and we're going to road trip, and we'll be back in Boston 11 days from now. So if you want, we'll put your car on the car train, and that will also be at Fenway when we get back from the road trip. We're all leaving here Wednesday. We go to Toronto, Baltimore, whatever. 11 days from now, we get to Fenway. All your stuff will be there. The cribs and all that stuff, bring them for the truck, and put your car here before we leave that day, and your car will magically be outside Fenway when we get there. The instructions, Jack says, well, one thing, please don't load up the car with more than 200 pounds worth of stuff, because that goes on the truck for the cribs and all that. But just the car, we don't want more than 200 pounds in the car. And Manny raises his hand and says, but I weigh 215. He said, no, Manny, You won't be in the car. You'll be with us going to Toronto and Baltimore like this. Yeah, that was a great Manny story.
Yeah.
So
One
good.
of the great parts about and it's one of the words in the title of the book that Chad edited was championships, frustration, characters. You know, there's no personality to this team. There are no characters. There's nobody that you would go to for a good story, a good quote, a good soundbite. And then is that are all sports becoming this now? Are they all becoming just so sanitized?
Yeah, Lynchy, I think that's a really good point. And, you know, part of it is the access that we do not have anymore. So you're not able to tell the readers, the viewers, what they're like because you're not around them the way we were. I mean, you know, when you were covering travel like those Celtics, we knew what they were like. We knew the inside jokes, the nicknames, all that stuff. You're just around them. And travel had a lot to do with that, and access to the room had a lot to do with that. The access just went away, the travel went away, and their comfort level of being around us went away, and we got a lot older than them too. So, but even with the young writers, they don't know the young writers' names. They don't know them. They don't care to know them. They connect with the fans themselves with social media, so they don't need a good write-up anymore. There's none of that. So you just don't have that, and I think that, you know, we just don't know them on the basis that we once did to bring out that character. I think there's still guys that are characters, but we don't get to it, and the young people don't get to it either. But this Sox team, and, you know, it's a very bland roster. You're right about that, but like clearly, I mean, Tristan Casas has character. He's painting his friggin' nails, and he's sunbathing the outfield, and he's might be arrogant or whatever, but it's character, and so that's going to come out. You know, Kike Hernandez thinks he has character, but he's just sort of a blowhard who's self-appointed leader at this point. But he's certainly willing to talk to people about it and push back at people that don't like it and that sort of thing. So, yeah, I see some potential there, but most of it's just us not being around them and their carefulness with they don't need us anymore, so they'll just connect directly with their fans, and that's how it's carried out now.
Well, some of their, you know, one of their catchers is an interesting character.
There were issues with Reese McGuire. Look it up. Go on Google. I'm not talking about him.
Well, I mean, I can understand that. It's just amazing. But you go back, you might just write things down, like guys like Bob Stanley or Boggs or Mo Vaughn or these guys, Greenwell. They all had personalities connected with the name.
Oh my God! I mean, Wade Boggs it was like every day.
Every day.
Man, you know, willed himself invisible. I mean, there were so many things, you know, and we were like
Margot. The whole Margot thing was like.
I mean, Barbara Walters.
Stoudemire and Kekich.
Barbara Walters came to Winter Haven to interview Wade Boggs, and rather than feel ashamed or disgraced, he's like, Barbara Walters, I could win 5 batting titles. Barbara Walters would never talk to me. We're like, but Wade, this isn't a good thing. No, it didn't matter. Wade was great.
It didn't matter. No, it didn't.
Hey, it looks like Chris Sale has willed himself invisible.
Yeah, I got in trouble for writing that too. I was body shaming him. Imagine body shaming a professional athlete.
Yeah, because he's being too thin.
I thought that was the job. But yeah, I thought it was dramatically, you know, it's hard to set the bar on that because he's always been a thin guy and he pitched at the highest levels of Major League Baseball with that frame, and it's a family hereditary thing we all wish we had. But hey, I just thought it was worse. It was more dramatic. It was a little bit, it didn't look healthy. And when you break a bone throwing a pitch, that's to me, that's the tipping point where you start to wonder what they're doing, what this is about. So anyway, we'll see if he holds up, and maybe he'll be dazzling again. I don't know.
Who's the most interesting character you've had to write about that constantly had stuff for you? Of all the 4 sports.
Well, I mean, we just said Boggs. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, you know, I think you guys all know in this town, we've had the greatest in every sport. I mean, we've just been so blessed, and characters, you know, I mean, Bill Lee, who was a bigger character than Bill Lee? Wade Boggs, Bill, you know, who was more decorated than Tom Brady, and who's more fun than Larry Bird and Cedric Maxwell and those guys. So, I mean, it just never ends. It's just been amazing. We're all blessed to have been in this town to do what we do.
Not to mention the hockey players. I mean, they were like the more bizarre people of all times. You know, like getting wheeled out of the hospital. Cashman making his one call Chinese food. There's stuff that
Yeah.
great
You know,
stories. Great
yeah,
story.
Who's more fun than Mike Milbury? You hitting the guy over the head with his shoe?
Mike Milbury, right?
You almost hit Lynchy with a shoe in the hot tub.
Yeah. Who took the tire iron to the bus? Was that O'Reilly?
Yeah, Hartford, yeah.
I mean, there's a million of those things.
Right. I mean, we can't.
Who's more? Harry Sinden. Harry, what about
or Don Cherry?
Harry, what about Patrick Roy? Roy sucks. Oh, thank you, Harry. Way to go. It's like,
And don't forget Don Cherry, Danny.
oh my God. Yeah.
I'm sure,
Yeah, it's just we're so lucky.
Did you ever say to Don on a road trip early on, like, hey, Don, do you have a tie I can borrow? Probably never happened.
Tell me the water.
This is probably the good point that we should ask Dan this question that we started to ask the guests when we have them. And one of our sponsors is the great Cold Springs RV. It's up in Ware, New Hampshire, Weare, Ware, New Hampshire, coldspringsrv.com. And we're going to take the Lobie Cruiser, we call it. Great big motorhome. And we're going to hit all the halls of fame and, some hot spots that you want to go. There might be a sentimental favorite. Maybe we drive down to spring training in it. And we often talk about, hey, who'd you love to drive cross country with? If you had your choice, would it be Parcells or Belichick or both? Who's somebody you'd like to take a cross country trip with? Say, pick two people in your lifetime that would be good travel mates and interesting company.
Yeah, cross country's a long way. Do we have to make it that long? I mean, boy,
all right.
really...
Canton, Ohio.
We'll stop at the Mississippi.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
you can have that person step out, and another person gets in.
We'll stop in Cleveland so we can see the.
Because honest to God, I do want to take a trip with Belichick and just find out what this was all about. Everything. There's so much I want to know, and I think he has. He really cares about history and has a great value for history and institutional memory. And just so many things happened. I mean, so many things happened that we don't know about just to try to learn. And if you could get him in a comfort zone, but if he's going to start stonewalling you by the Stockbridge exit, then, it's not going to be a
stockyard. You mean by the stockyard?
It's going to be a long 3,000 miles, So, I mean, if you had the sodium pentothal, I'd say Bill Belichick, because I just want to know. And that, to me, and Parcells would be great company for that. I always loved, like Harry Sinden. I learned so much. The little bit of hockey I know, I just would learn sitting next to Harry watching games.
Unbelievable.
And I mean, so yeah, and clearly, like Bobby Orr's kind of quiet. I don't know. I think he might run dry earlier. He just doesn't. He's a little bit like Yaz that way. Doesn't remember as much as we do sometimes about things. Whereas like Parcells remembers everything, and you could really engage there. It's just, I mean, we lost Bill Russell, but if you could be in a car with Bill Russell, just get him going. Imagine the stories you'd have there. So yeah, it goes back to the earlier part, just how blessed we are.
Maybe you could just take the Coos back to Worcester. That would even be a nice ride.
Well, the Coos, I could do 3,000 miles with Coos, and I know I would still have questions, and he would still have things to say. He's just so brilliant and so thoughtful and introspective. You don't have a lot of introspective 94-year-old people, and he absolutely is.
Well, if you can't get Parcells to join you, but you'd like to take your family and your 5 grandchildren, all you need to do is go up to Cold Springs RV in Ware, New Hampshire, Weare, Ware, New Hampshire. It's coldspringsrv.com. You can get the 40-foot motorhome. You can get the travel trailer that goes on the hitch or the fifth wheel. I like the pop-up because I go to camping at Hermit Island and Small Point, Maine. Maybe if you like those the quads or the RVs, the side-by-side, you get the toy hauler. They've got the greatest selection, all the 2023s. They do have some leftover 2022s. Best price, best selection, great service. They're so nice. So whether you want to drive up, which would be a nice thing to do this weekend, get the snow out of the way early. You're kind of in the middle of the winter doldrums. Take a ride up to New Hampshire. Or if you can't do that, just go to the website. It's coldspringsrv.com. coldspringsrv.com. Ever take one of those trips, Dan, in an RV?
Never have. No, that sounds like fun, though.
Yeah.
It can be wild.
Parcells will bring all the Dove bars. You wouldn't have to worry about that.
Danny, let's talk a second about the NBA.
Yeah.
And since the Celtics are, obviously a leading team in the East, maybe not, one of four, but they certainly have an inside track. I don't know. For me, it's been pretty much unwatchable. I just can't.
Come on. You can't do that. I know what you're saying. The reliance on the 3-point shot, a little bit much, and little theatrics and, players league and player empowerment and all that sort of thing. But
where am I wrong?
Well, but watch the games. I mean, the last 3 games I've seen were great basketball games. Celtics, Indiana last week, went to the wire. They're on the road. The Celtics, Sixers, I defy you. It was just tremendous runs on both sides. Yesterday, I walked into the Laker game. The Lakers were behind by 27 points in Dallas and beat Kyrie Irving and Doncic. I mean, that's a record in the history of the league. No team's ever been behind by 27 and won the game. I just walked into that, and I'm not a LeBron hater. I think he's playing at 38. I think he's the greatest player. It's him, Chamberlain, or Jordan, and just skill level and excellence, the greatest players who ever lived. So to me, it's the product's still darn good, and even regular season games are better than they used to be, from what I'm seeing. Now, if you want to go back to the 80s and the Celtics and the Pistons and the Bulls and all the Lakers, I mean, I get that. I lived it, and I wrote a book about it, and I'm down with that. The hand checking and the banging down low, and the pick and rolls, the give and goes, the actual fluidness of the game, which you only see if you watch the women play now. The low post game's just gone. So I understand all that, Bob, and I don't like the reliance on the threes. I don't like a guy being 3 feet from the basket and kicking it back out for the three, and the nerds and the margins and all that stuff. And some of the reviews are too long. It's a good product. I'm just going to tell you, those guys are really good, and the players are going to be great. I'm looking
skill level, Danny. I'm not questioning. You can't question the skill level.
Skill level and close games is a pretty good combination. I mean, so I don't like the college game because I can't get into it. I know they're great, and you got the crowds and all that, but that I've lost interest in that. Pro game I do, and you've got a team here that's going to go pretty deep, and you're going to see them play, the Heat, the Bucks, whatever they're playing. I'm into it. I'm into the NBA. Sorry.
You know what is certainly different to read about? Load management.
Well, I hate that. Nobody likes that. Imagine if it's so expensive now. You pay $350 for a ticket, and that's the day that Tatum's not playing. Is it his son's birthday party or something like that? I hate that.
Let me give you just one quick example of that. Took my family to a Celtics game back when LeBron was with the Cavaliers. And I took them to the Garden and got the BZ box and everything else, and whatever. And LeBron does a no-show, didn't play.
Well, that's unusual.
This was way back when.
Yeah.
And ever since, it's left such a bad taste in my mouth. Ever since, I just can't I can't forget it. I mean,
but you're being unfair. I mean, there were games that Russell didn't play. Russell did, occasional. I'm not doing it today.
Sure. I'm just saying this is one example of of the impact that it had. And so anyway, I can understand that people would be upset.
Yeah, and I want to go back to what we just said about Tatum going to his son's birthday party and missing a game. I mean, unthinkable. I mean, I go back to CYO basketball. It'd be unthinkable to miss a game for that reason, let alone an NBA game against one of your fiercest rivals.
Mike, I every time if I mention that, I get emails, and there's so many people defend these players because they love them more than their families, and they think they're getting loved back. And how dare you pick on a man's family choice? Like, it's the life he chose. We chose to be sports anchors and newspaper writers and radio reporters. It's nights, it's weekends, it's holidays, and there's a lot of trade-offs. You get to do a lot of other things. And if you're Jason Tatum, it's 80, 81, 82 games. Do those games, And I don't buy any of it. And Popovich started this, and it's out of control, and it's a problem. And it's like Bob says, if it's the one game and it's a load management game, you don't see Tatum or whoever, it's wrong. So how
about the Milwaukee game before the All-Star game, which was supposedly like the most important regular season game so far because of the Bucks and the Celtics, and no Tatum and no Brown.
Right. Well, Brown was legitimately hurt, but Tatum
was legitimately hurt, but he somehow made it to the All-Star game 2 days later.
I know.
And they both did.
Subs, that if they have to play Game 7 in Milwaukee because they finished one game behind them in the conference, then we'll bring that up again because it's poor. I don't like it, and I never will like it. So yeah, it's not a fan of that, and I'm amazed that there's defense for. People are so soft about this now. It's like, oh, it's his family, it's his son. Tell his son his birthday's next week. We're not going to know the difference. And I mean, it's just it's the life you choose comes with it. And people, school teachers, hospital workers, everybody, people work. They don't get the day off for their child's birthday.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think this thing may come up again, and boy, I tell you, if they have to play Game 7 in Milwaukee, I'm standing right beside you with a lot of other angry people. I'm angry already. It hasn't even happened.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's true.
What about Patriots? Their quarterback. Do they ride this guy, or do they make a move for Jimmy?
Well, I kind of trust your instincts on this. I want to hear what you have to say, but he obviously regressed in the second year and didn't have the great support staff, and didn't have a real offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach, those kinds of things. The attitude didn't seem great. It seemed a little pissy to me, and yelling at your coaches, and I don't know. You just wonder. I wish, and this is part of the thing where we're not in the room, we're not around. It's like, what are the teammates really thinking? We hear he has the room, the players like him, stuff. I don't know. So there's a lot of stabbing in the dark these days, and a lot of guessing. And you hear this on ESPN and talk radio, and people just guessing. Well, here's what's happening. No one really knows what's happening. So I don't know, and it's hard to get a guy at that position, as you know. And where is he? He's certainly at best in the middle, somewhere between 15 and 24, I guess, at this point. Do you build around him, and then the money comes due in a year or two? I mean, those are hard questions. I mean, you're the football guy. What's your opinion, Mike Lynch?
I think that he was having Matt Patricia as the offensive coordinator, I think really added to his regression in the second year. There were more passes thrown laterally. He could throw a 40-yard pass, but it'd be only a gain of 4 yards.
Yeah.
And I could see his frustration when they let him go, like the Minnesota game, Thanksgiving night. They opened up and he threw the ball vertically down the field all the time. And he wasn't bad. Now he has a lot of Drew Bledsoe in him, which I don't like. He throws off his wrong foot. He forces the ball and turns the ball over in the red zone and makes bad decisions. That usually, Josh Allen was horrible his first year.
Yeah.
Where will you get this guy from Wyoming? What a waste of a draft pick. And I'll look at him.
Yeah.
But I'm really interested to see how he performs this year with Bill O'Brien. If he doesn't perform under Bill O'Brien this year, I say it's time to look for somebody.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. That's good. I'm going to write all that now. It sounds smart in the paper. Thank you.
Annie, I think the real story in Foxborough is still one that's simmering, and that's the relationship between Kraft and Belichick.
Yeah, I agree with that, Bob. I think that, we know it's frosty there. And I know that if God forbid, Bob passed on, Jonathan would probably fire Bill tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
I think the hatred is there.
Hard to say which would be out the door first. Either Belichick could leave.
Yeah. So Bob is sort of serving as the buffer in this thing now. And Bob, he's a pleaser. He wants everybody to like him. That's why he always takes both sides of every issue so that everybody will like him. And that's a delicate balance. And, Bill has no time for any of that, any of the nonsense of meeting sponsors or sucking up, or he's not reverent to his coach, I think, in private moments. That's what little I know and saw. And I think it's frosty. And again, it's a 20-year relationship, 23-year relationship.
You just read my mind. It's most relationships aren't built to last more than 20.
Yeah, that's bound to happen. And given the personalities of the two people, it's tough. So all that winning made up for a lot of what they didn't have. And so I think it never goes away. And I'm sure Bill is just really angry right now about how he's been kind of shown up in the public media with press releases of, we're going to hire an offensive coordinator. No way he likes that. It's embarrassing to him. And he's got yeah, Bob's going to be out with a stopwatch talking about the press corners again, and that sort of thing. So, it's it's combustible, this whole thing there, and anybody who doesn't know that has not been around or not paying attention or live in a fantasy world. So yeah, it never goes away, and it could come to a head. I can't ever imagine them firing Bill Belichick. I just can't. But if we get to that point, that'd be a big story.
That would be a huge story. When all the years I did the Patriots show, I was, in there on Wednesday mornings for 6 or 7 hours, and I would observe an awful lot of things. And the consensus was among me and a couple other people and people who work for the Patriots is that Belichick is 2 7-9 seasons away from being fired.
Sure.
And so now we're perilously close to these 7-9 seasons.
Yeah.
Now they're 7-10 seasons, or whatever, 8-9 seasons. But we're there. I mean, we are there, and he has finally, where he did the hands-off approach for such a long time with Belichick, and he learned his lesson allegedly with Parcells. He's back. His hand is on this franchise right now, unlike it has been for the last 22 years.
Yeah, and what a story that'll be. So it's again, it keeps us really riveted to that narrative the whole way. See how it plays out. And I have kind of always sided with Bill in the whole quarterback, coach, owner thing, just because I think that's the most important position of those three things. And that he's been the biggest difference maker. And that's a very unpopular opinion now, because the quarterback clearly won that PR war in a big way and won a Super Bowl without Bill. But so yeah, I'm anxious to see how this plays out.
Maybe Mr. Kraft, now that his wife is substantially.
You just call him Bob. Will you stop with the Mr. Kraft thing?
RKK, you mean?
You too. How about just Bob?
He's got the substantially younger wife. Maybe that's going to keep him youthful and involved, and keeping Jonathan waiting in the wings a little bit longer. Do you think he showed her video of his lightweight football days down at Columbia when he was?
I don't think there's video of that. There's video of other things.
And when's that punishment coming down from the league, by the way?
Good one.
Scat back.
Yeah. Everything gets broom for this guy, but it's got to be killing him. It's not in the Hall of Fame. That's killing. Jerry Jones in the Hall of Fame, and he's not. Imagine what that's like to live with.
Oh boy,
it's one of the best lines I've heard in a long time. Snuck that in. That was good.
What, scat back?
No, the fact that there's video of other things. You haven't seen the video of other things, but there's video of other things. That was a world-class line. Okay, world-class. So I'm going to ask you, this might be a little more delicate. Present-day television sports, the stuff that Lynch and I used to do. Your opinion of where sports has evolved in the newscast.
Well, we saw what's happened to your poor station with no nightly sports segments.
I'm just asking.
That's a low point in the landscape of the last 100 years. So yeah, I mean, I remember all those nights with the long segments and all kinds of back and forth and packages and I mean, Lynch, wow. We love you, Channel 5 guys. I love Channel 7. They've been good to me, but I mean, 4 was just a juggernaut in my view because of the sheer volume and the numbers that they put at it. Obviously seeing Don Shane pass over the weekend.
I should have mentioned that. It was
part of the deepest roster. Bob Newmeyer and Scott Wally, Alice Cook, Steve Burton, Rochi. I mean, what a cast! It's just so many people, and of course Alan Miller. And and you guys had it going. That was as good as there ever was. Just the sheer numbers that you guys were able to put at it. Poor Lynchy by himself over there, having to fight all that, But so it's just. I mean, again, this is why we just sit here.
And we say, job, Danny. I told him he knows I offered him a job.
Well, the takeaway for all of us is we got to do it when it was the most fun, and that never goes away. And we did it at the best time when it was the most fun, and I know that's true. And it's a great comfort to have that we know that we were there when it was the best.
Absolutely. We never had a night, and I'm sure the same thing at the paper, where we said, "What are we going to put in our sports?" I cannot remember one night where we said, "What do we?" Even during the All-Star break,
Yeah.
we say, when there was that one night when there were no teams playing,
Yeah.
we never said what were we going to put in, because Oil Can would throw a temper tantrum and because it would make the All-Star or something. Something was always there
every day.
You know what's funny is that, Dan, people will still say to me, and not to blow smoke up your rear end, "Hey, did you see what Shaughnessy wrote the other day?" Right? But you'd be hard pressed to find somebody like they used to. "Hey, did you see Lynchy last night?" Or "Did you see what Bob Lobel was talking about?"
Yeah.
You don't have that any longer in local television.
I mean, the locals, Bob, I got to call in with, I talked to Jackie Canale yesterday.
Good.
And because when Don Shane passed, that reminded me of the Bill Buckner interview 19 days before it happened. And I wrote about it in the book. I've got the book right here. I found the page. I had Maggie McGrath went and found it. So for those in the audience who don't know what I'm talking about, when Don Shane was here, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, mid-'80s, whatever that was.
Yeah.
And the day before the ALCS, Sox Angels 1986, which was an epic series leading into the Red Sox Mets World Series, Don Shane, during batting practice, interviewed Bill Buckner. It's a back and forth. And at the end, I have it right here. This is amazing. I didn't plan this.
This is good. I'm glad you got it.
At the end, this is 19 days before the ground ball goes between Buckner's legs. 19 days in advance of that. He's given this interview to Don Shane, and Buckner wraps up by saying, Shane asked him about the pressures of postseason play. And Buckner says, "The dreams are that you're going to have a great series and win. The nightmares are that you're going to let the winning run score on a ground ball through your legs. These things happen, I think a lot of it is just fate." He said that 19 days before it happened. A life-changing event. And you guys went and got that out of the video vault in Brighton or Alston or somewhere. Maggie McGrath dug it out.
Yeah.
And you reran it on February 26, 1995. And I'm trying to find it now so I can link it to one of the columns that I'm working on, just because, that's like
Shane and Alan. This is the night, and during the Angel series, Buckner walked off an interview. Walked off, right?
Yes.
It was a question that Shane and Alan Miller gave me to ask him. So I always blame Shane and Miller for, Shane wanted my job. So he told me to ask this question of Buckner. And Buckner walked off in the middle of anyway, Buckner was quite a central piece of that whole series.
Life-changing for a lot of people.
Amazing. I mean, at 19 days, I remember even going back and talking to you about that before you wrote it, and how we tried to find it and dig it up, because it absolutely happened.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to dig it up again, so I hope she finds it.
Yeah. Well, Maggie's gone, but she's in Rhode Island. Jackie can find it.
Jackie's on. She says she thinks she can get it.
Are you guys Curb Your Enthusiasm fans?
Absolutely. I saw it. It was a great redemptive show. It was great.
Oh, my God. The Bill Buckner show.
Yeah. And I was happy that he had come to peace with it by that time and turning it into a positive. And you know what the trade-off was for Bill to participate in that show is that his daughter is an actress, and Larry put her in the scene. She's a flight attendant in that same show.
Wow.
Go back and look at it. I forget her first name, but that was Bill's stipulation to cooperate with the episode, that his daughter would be cast.
How about him coming back to Fenway Park for the World Series celebration that next opening day? Yep,
they did that, and then they rolled him out one more time. And he always he pushed back on any notion that it was redemption or forgiveness, because he's like, I didn't do anything wrong. That was he was, and of course he was right.
Now, Evans told me at one point that he was in right field during that play and had the very unique view of that whole play, being in right field, that there was a pickoff play on at second base.
Yeah,
Barrett was shifted over.
They had him.
Huh?
He would have been out.
They had him picked off, right?
Yeah, it would have been out. Yeah, they missed the sign. I think Stanley missed the sign or something. He didn't turn.
The play was on, so both Barrett and Buckner were shaded over towards second base,
Yeah.
And Buckner, who was hobbled even at the time because they didn't put Stapleton in, blah, 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 blah. The whole chain goes right back to John McNamara.
Yeah. That night is like, that night is the, I mean, this is a, horrible comparison. It's basically the Kennedy assassination of Boston sports is that night, because it never goes away. I mean, the Malcolm Butler thing is similar, like Warren commissions, whatever. No one knows. And more things keep coming out about what was going on in the background of events like that. And that's one people still have stories that are fresh, new stories with the umpires, the clubhouse guys. Everybody's got stories.
Amazing. I mean, really, it was just, you're right, it never ends. But both of these guys were shaded over towards second base, and Buckner had to go left before he had to come in on the ball, and therefore was out of position to begin with. All right, whatever. You've heard.
I mean, you think Billy Buck? I mean, the guy was a borderline Hall of Famer.
Yeah,
right.
2,700 hits, more hits than Ted Williams.
Yeah. You have 3,000 in?
2,700.
Okay.
You know who is a Hall of Famer? George Gray. I think we could all agree. First ballot Hall of Famer. The great George Gray at Lexington Toyota. Doesn't matter what you need. You can, if you called George and said, "Listen, I need some wool socks for this weekend," he'd get them done for you. But since he's a Toyota dealer, I suggest that you go, like Dan, like Mike, like Bob, like myself, go out and see George Gray, because not only does he have that fine product, the Toyota, he's got the best selection you'll find right now. He's got the very best price you'll ever pay. And bar none, he's one of the top service dealers in the country. So do yourself a favor. With all those things, if the guy was a jerk, you'd still feel good about going there. But the guy is a gem, just a first ballot Hall of Fame human being. So go out and see George Gray at Lexington Toyota. They're at 409 Mass Ave in Lexington. Go visit them. You'll want to, because you'll make a friend for life. But if you can't, make sure you check out their website. It's lexingtontoyota.com.
Hank, I can add to that story. I actually did call him last week. I was trying to jump a car in my driveway during that ice storm, and I couldn't find the hood release in my Toyota Camry, 2020 Toyota Camry. So I called George Gray, said, "Where's the hood release for this thing? I got to open the hood to jump the car." And George had one of his service guys call me so I could open the hood. So
unbelievable.
Hank, you are not lying there. I can give first person account to that.
He's the best. We'll see him Thursday night. Hopefully you guys will be there too at the Stockyard.
So I found this just when we walked into this office here, so-called office, and I found this little sign here that I haven't seen in like 20 years. It says, "Pokey would have had it." I'm trying to remember who was the shortstop after Pokey Reese. They moved to the second, or
yeah, Pokey played mostly. Pokey was second base. He I think the last grounder they beat the Yanks in New York in 2004 was to him, the 4-3 grounder. It was Embry was pitching. Pokey had that grounder.
Good one. That's it on your hat. Anyway,
Dan Shaughnessy, thank you for doing it.
You did a great job, Danny. Thanks. That was really fun.
Fun talking to you guys. Anytime. Enjoy the show. Take care, fellas.
All right.
See you later.
Jackie will find you what you need.
I hope so. Thanks,
Good.
guys.
Thanks a lot. Good job, guys.